Welcome back. You're still tuned into Halftime Report. Let's talk about the renewable energy space. India has added 31.25 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity between April to November period and is on track to add another 40 to 45 gigawatt this year itself. To talk about the sector, what the outlook is, what are the challenges, we have with us Somesh Kumar, who is the partner and at Power and Utilities Leader at ICRA India, and Girishkumar Kadam, who is the SVP and Group Head Corporate Sector Ratings at ICRA. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining in. Somesh, let me start with you. We are on track to end this year with a capacity addition of 40 to 45 gigawatt this year itself. Do you think this trend will only improve come 2026? And what are some of the biggest constraints that we are seeing right now? Is it land? Is it grid access? Has financing continued the way we were seeing earlier as well?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, I mean, the country has done very well. I would say that, we've added 40, 45 gigawatts is what we're looking at towards the end of the year. We have a target of about 500 gigawatts to achieve by 2030, which is in about, and we're about half of it as of now. So in the next 5 years, we have to add about 250 gigawatts, which is roughly about 50 gigawatts each year. Looking at the current trends, we are very optimistic that this will happen. But as you said, in terms of some of the constraints, I think, the usual constraints used to be land, financing, and also grid access. But of late, what we've been seeing is that, capital availability for renewable projects has improved substantially. And domestic as well as international investors remain very active. Even in terms of land acquisition, which used to pose challenges, is not so much of a challenge. Yes, it's not absolutely, there, but, things like solar parks, hybrid projects, wasteland aggregation have provided workable solutions. And, we're seeing more and more support of government in acquiring land for this. But the real bigger, bottlenecks, I think there are two bottlenecks, which I would say. One is the grid evacuation, grid access, the transmission readiness. So the generation capacity is often, awarded faster and constructed faster than the grid comes up. So that really, creates an issue for evacuation of power and grid integration of renewables. And there are several issues in that, whether it is right of way or coordination across states, planning mismatches. So I think those are the things which need to be overcome. And the second one is around the intermittency. So, as we see more and more renewables, which are intermittent source of power, I think we have to make sure that there are flexible resources coming up at the same pace, including storage capacity. So I think those are the two things I think we have to focus on.
Okay. All right, that point is taken. Let's get in Mr. Kadam into this conversation as well. Mr. Kadam, like Somesh pointed out, issues such as land acquisition, etc., are sort of easing out when it comes to the renewable capacity in India. But the intermittency problem is something that he did point out. Just give us a sense in terms of how much of an issue it is and a roadblock it is for India to get to its targets on renewable capacity. Mr. Kadam.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here as part of this show. So certainly the intermittency is something which is inherent when it comes to renewable generation. Now, and that is leading to, the challenges related to the curtailment of, renewable power, which is happening in pockets in states like Rajasthan particularly, and also to some extent in Gujarat, which are, which are highly RE-rich zones. And of late, we have seen a considerable RE capacity addition in these pockets. So, and this particular challenge has precisely happened because of, the mismatch between the installed capacity, the commission capacity vis-a-vis, the available capacity for the evacuation. And that is resulting a challenge, particularly for some, portion of, the installed capacity in states like Rajasthan, where the capacity is sort of getting stranded because of, the temporary, GNA access. So that is a challenge which is currently being witnessed, and that is also because of, the necessary transmission lines are still not commissioned. So that's one. The second is, of course, there can be a challenge which is also being witnessed, as we understand, is for the projects which are connected to the state network, and essentially on the pretext of the grid safety requirements. So the curtailment episodes are largely happening because of these two, issues. The underlying theme here is the adequacy of the transmission network. So given the fact that we have seen a very rapid rise in renewable share, and in fact it is going to be like that even going forward, the corresponding strengthening in the transmission network, both at interstate as well as intrastate level, is a key. And that's where there has been some slow progress and some fast-track approach is really required. On top of that, what is also required is the storage, capacity built up, both in battery and the pump. In fact, the kind of decline, the price decline that we have seen in the battery price levels is something which is highly encouraging for the sector. And we have already started seeing a very good, participation from number of players in the standalone, battery storage bids. At a pretty competitive, tariffs. And obviously, these are being a short gestation projects, so that should also pick up. So the strengthening in the battery storage, projects along with the PSP, which should take some more time because that is a long gestation, project cycle. While that is clearly a focus area as we see for number of, developers as we discussed. But certainly, the progress towards storage would also be very, very critical, to manage, the challenges which are coming out, from the intermittency. And just to give another data point, if you look at the overall renewable energy generation mix in FY25 is about 20%. It is going to rise to about 35 to 40% over the next 4 to 5 years.
Sure.
So we are about a considerable rise. So within that context, these strengthenings are certainly required. Yeah.
Okay. Somesh, I just want to come back to you. If renewable returns, are structurally lower than fossil fuel, why is the capital still pouring in at record levels? What is it that we could infer from this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Traditionally, I think fossil fuels have been the mainstay of India, at least in the distant past. But now, over the last few years, we're seeing that the renewables have taken over, and the capital is really chasing the renewable projects only. We're hardly seeing any interest towards funding of fossil fuel-based projects. In many cases, we've seen that, or typically, renewable energy projects sometimes do offer lower nominal returns than fossil fuel investments. But the capital is chasing them because they provide more stable, predictable, and long duration cash flows, as I would say. For large institutional investors such as pension funds and sovereign wealth funds, I think this stability is highly attractive. And renewable projects with long-term power purchase agreements resemble infrastructure assets more than what would be said as commodity-based energy projects. So revenue certainty and reduces the downside risk, which is increasingly valued in a volatile global environment. So as the global pool of long-term capital expands, I think the demand for predictable assets has increased faster and will increase faster than demand for high risk, high return opportunities. And clearly investors are both accepting lower returns and actively reassessing fossil fuel risk because the latter is becoming more and more decisive. I think fossil fuel investments face increasing regulatory uncertainties, carbon pricing risk, financing constraints, and the possibility of being stranded at some point in time. So I think because of all these reasons, even if the returns are slightly lower in some cases, I think the investors are still, very encouraged to go for the renewable energy sector, and investments are coming into that.
Take that point, but that continues to be the big point of debate, right? Why should one invest in renewables versus fossil fuels? But of course, so far money has poured and we'll have to see whether that continues or not without policy support. Somesh and Girishkumar, a lot more questions, but we're completely out of time. But thank you so much for joining in with your insights on the renewable space and what the outlook is going forward for a country like India, which has a huge dependence on fossil fuel as a source of energy. Time for a break now. Up next, we'll get Mangnam Malu, who will get you all the